So, good afternoon all. Welcome back to laser technology session. So, in the last class, we have discussed about Teichhofer laser system. So, Teichhofer laser system is made up of titanium doped into aluminum oxide. So, where we have seen the absorption spectrum, which falls under visible range, like around 400 nanometers to 600 nanometer. We're peaking at in the green region, that is around 500 to 520. And there is emission. The emission of the spectrum of your Teichhofer material or active medium ranges from 600 nanometers to 1180 nanometers. So we have seen the transitions from electronic state to higher electronic states. So there is a relaxation to the vibrational states, from higher vibrational states to lower vibrational states. So the lower vibration state having relaxation time of 3.2 microseconds of lifetime. So after this, they have a transition to lower electronic states. So then this transition is your lasing transition, and this is our typical oscillator system, which is giving your central wavelength of 800 nanometer. So where you can tune the lasing wavelength throughout the fluorescence spectrum. So that is around from 600 or 650, because you have a overlap of absorption region. As you see clearly, there is overlap of absorption as well as emission. This region is very difficult to get the lasing action. So you have the lasing action can take place from 650 to 1180 nanometers. And we have seen the laser parameters, so which has the tunable range with the different nonlinear materials from 250 nanometers to roughly 1180 nanometers. Okay, so this is the second harmonic generation and third harmonic generation. With the fourth harmonic generation crystals, so now it is available so that it can give a even good tunable range in the deep UV region. So this operational mode of the laser system, so it can ranges from CW2 pulse laser, so where your pulse widths can vary from microseconds to femtoseconds. So even these Teichhofer lasers will be utilized to generate higher harmonic generation lasers. That means to go to up to X-rays, you have to use a femtosecond pulses to generate the even vacuum UV light as well as soft X-rays and hot X-rays. So these Teichhofer lasers gives the access to get the femtosecond lasers or femtosecond pulses that will be utilized to further to generate higher harmonic generation lasers. Okay, so now we will see wide variety of Teichhofer laser systems. So now if you see here, this is a tunable CW laser. So with the cavity is a ring cavity, so it's called ring resonator. So with this laser you can get the line width is much less than the 5 megahertz. When you see it's less than 5 megahertz, if you convert into centimeter inverse, you will almost get it's 5, like order of 10 to minus 5 centimeter inverse. So it's very narrow spectrum that will be utilized for high resolution spectroscopy. So this is one of the oscillator system. It's a femtosecond pulses to generate the femtosecond pulses. So using a mode locking technique. So this is the oscillator system, and this is your amplifier system. So this is one of the amplifier system. You use the same oscillator, you take it as a seed beam and you amplify this seed beam using a pump source. Okay, so this total system you call an amplifier system. So this is also a femtosecond laser system. Cryostats to cool down your crystal temperatures. Okay, so this is a cryo cool laser system, and there is one more company that gives you another type of femtosecond laser system. So they have different cavity designs. So depending upon the company, they use optical cavity, or they use, as usual we discussed the different cavity designs. So they have different cavity designs for the different lasers, and this is one of the system, the femtosecond laser system. So with the high powers, so this system also the crystal is cooled by cryo cooling. So this way you can generate very high power lasers, and this is one of the company to give the different femtosecond pulses. So these are the different femtosecond pulses which are available now with the different companies. So right now you can go up to few femtoseconds, the pulse durations you have few femtoseconds, and with the high powers, and also variable repetition rates. So this now we have the control of different pulse energies, different pulse durations are called pulse widths, okay, and different repetition rates. So if you want to range from 10 Hz to you want to go to megahertz, okay. So these are, what is repetition rate? The repetition rate means the number of pulses per second. So all this we can control. We have wide variety of types of lasers available commercially. So these semiconductor lasers, we already discussed about the few mechanisms of the semiconductor laser. So you have a typical semiconductor like a gallium arsenide. You have both, it's a uniform crystal, like you take one type of material, it's a gallium arsenide, you dope with the electrons, that becomes a n-type gallium arsenide, you dope with the holes, that becomes p-type gallium arsenide. So now you have the same material but with the different dopants, that means you have different carriers. So now if we combine these two materials, now what happens, it forms a junction, okay. This is called uniform junction because the material is same, so we call this uniform junction. Now what we have, you have the junction like this, you have a when you bring these two materials together, the band bending appears at the junction. So that this is a typical condition at no bias. So if you don't apply any electricity, if you don't apply any voltage, this is a typical condition of your semiconducting diode. So now what happens, if you apply a bias, the electrons will be depleted in the p-type region and your junction goes to excited states. So that is your conduction band. Then from conduction band you have lower energy level towards the n-type region, so you accumulate the electrons from your p-type conduction band to n-type conduction band. So now you accumulate the electrons over here, then you see at the junction you create a population inversion. You have the population, less population in these states. This is your band, the lower part is your valency band and the higher part, higher exit state is your conduction band. This is the band, okay. Now you have many energy levels which are empty at the lower states in valency band. Now here you have a population inversion is created, then you have a lasing takes place. So this is the basic principle of lasing action in typical semiconductor lasers. So that's what we see now here. We try to plot energy versus density of states. So you have already studied in condensed matter physics what is density of states. So this is for the three-dimensional material. You have a density of states like this. It follows this fashion, a parabolic shapes. So now this is your conduction band and this is valence band. So now density of states will tell you the population can accommodate in these energy levels. Okay, the density of states will give you the number of carriers can be accommodated in this region at this energy levels. Okay, in principle, in the ground state condition, okay, and the thermal equilibrium, your ground state is completely populated and your conduction band is empty in a typical semiconducting materials. Now once you give the bias condition, now what happens? You create the population inversion at the junction. I am talking about at the junction. So you create the population inversion at the junction. Now you see these energy levels are empty and you have these energy levels will be full. That means you have certain population in the conduction band energy levels. So now as your fermion energy will be shifted to upwards, and now you see you have population N1 is less than population of N2 in these regions. That creates a population inversion, and once you have population inversion, you have a spontaneous emission. When you have a spontaneous emission, that will trigger to the stimulated emission. So now once you have population emission, trigger the stimulated emission in that material because it has to travel to certain material. So the stimulated emission will be triggered. Now you create a lasing in this materials. Okay, that way you can have a lasing action in the semiconducting materials. Okay, so now if you see you have a gallium arsenide and you have N type and P type, but material is same, it's a gallium arsenide material, and now you have a region formed at the junction. This is your junction. So now when you have a biasing condition, it gives you your lasing action. Okay, so don't assume that this is looks like a pulse. In principle you will get a CW laser. Okay, this is the animation to show you there is a lasing come out from this device. Okay, so this is the about the semiconducting laser. So now we are talking about a homogeneous material in the previous slide. So in this slide now you see here you form heterogeneous junctions. For example, in the first slide we talk about the full gallium arsenide. So one is intrinsic and the other one is now you have aluminum gallium arsenide. So that means one junction there is a heterojunction now. It's not the same material. Your gallium arsenide and it's aluminum gallium arsenide. Okay, now what you generally prepare this kind of a materials, you have your conduction band is modified in this fashion. So these are your conduction band energy levels and this is your valency band energy levels. When you have a biasing condition, you deplete your valence band region at the junction. So you have a population inversion will be created. Okay, and now you have a complete heterojunctions. So on both sides you have different junction. Now this is one heterojunction, gallium arsenide and aluminum gallium arsenide, and here gallium arsenide and aluminum gallium arsenide. So now you see you create a kind of a quantum well structure in the conduction band. Okay, so this way you have different wide variety of lasers you can make using your heterojunctions and homojunctions of your semiconducting materials. So now as you see the intensity pattern will change, the profiles of your intensity profiles depending upon how the electron is confined in your conduction bands. And now in the semiconducting materials or in the heterojunction materials, it is very important that the lattice mismatch should not be there, or it should be very minimal, less than 10% or less than 7% is very much required to grow a crystalline heterojunctions or crystalline heterostructures. We call these here heterostructures. Okay, you have gallium arsenide and aluminum gallium arsenide materials are placed one top of each other. Okay, so there should be no lattice mismatch. You understand what is meant by lattice mismatch, right? So you have a lattice parameters in your crystal A, B, C. Now you place one top of each other. They should not be having lattice mismatch of more than 10%. In that case, you cannot grow a crystalline material. The crystalline material is very important to study. That means your electron has to feel the same same properties along the crystal. So you always require very crystalline materials to having a very good properties. Either it's optical or electronic properties, it demands high crystallinity materials. So in the heterostructures, you have to be required to follow the condition that you should be the material whatever you choose. You choose any semiconductor materials to make a heterostructures, they should be having a good lattice matching. Okay, that is very important. Now if you see, we have different kind of materials. These are like indium arsenide and gallium arsenide, aluminum arsenide. So these, now if you see in the left hand side there is a lattice parameter. So now if you see to make with the different materials, for example now I showed here gallium arsenide to aluminum gallium arsenide. So they are having a close lattice matching. When you have a close lattice, these are horizontal lines will tell you a lattice matching. Okay, and the dashed lines gives you the indirect band gaps. So now you always choose a material so show that to make a heterojunction you have to have a good lattice match. So that is the reason your gallium arsenide and aluminum gallium arsenide gives you a good lattice match to grow a high crystalline semiconducting device. Okay, so now we have wide variety of semiconducting diodes, or we can generally these semiconductor lasers we call diode lasers. Whatever we see in our laser pointers, see you can make such a tiny device using our semiconductor lasers. Depending on how much intensity you want, you can make a few millimeter or less than that using your semiconductor lasers. But we have wide range of materials so that it can cover a wide spectrum of visible to NIR. Now if you see, these are the different materials, it gives a certain range. Okay, so each one has a certain range of wavelengths, so which can be tunable. Like for example, there are few like indium gallium arsenide and cadmium H tellurium and PbSnTe. So these are kind of materials giving them a wide spectral ranges. Okay, so that way we can cover whole visible range using diode lasers or semiconductor lasers. So and you can see different other than the simple gallium and silicon or indium, you have different other materials like a cadmium telluride, mercury telluride, mercury selenide, zinc telluride. These are other materials. These are also semiconducting materials. As you can see, HGSC having a good lattice matching, so you can make a heterojunction and also homojunction diodes, semiconductor diodes. So that way, now if you want to make dimensional wise, so this is all we are talking about three-dimensional structures. In the three-dimensional structures, you have density of states in this follows this fashion. Now, for example, you have quantum wells like a two-dimensional. So two-dimensional materials. So two-dimensional materials, your density of states varies like this. So you have certain reason it's constant, and then like kind of a step function. Similarly here. Okay. So this way now what happens? You don't have a continuous energy bands. So because these energy levels are discrete energy levels. Now what happens? You have lasing can happen only those transitions. Okay, so that means you are able to get a narrow bandwidths. And if you go even lower dimensions, like it's one-dimensional quantum voids, even you have seen you have narrowed down your density of states. Now all these energies, for density of state means these are all energies electron can take. These are all energies electron can take, and also these are all energies electron can take. So that is the meaning of density of states. And if you go to zero dimensions, that means quantum dot, you have a delta function at that energy. That means you have density of states along this energy line. That means even you get your bandwidth is very narrowed down. Okay, so this is way you can make your lasers defining your materials, like it's a 3-dimensional material or 2-dimensional material or 1-dimensional material or zero dimensional. Okay, what is meant by 2-dimensional, 3-dimensional? That means your electron is confined into those directions, those dimensionalities. For example, in 3 dimensions, electron can move along 3 directions. In this 2 dimension, electron is restricted to one direction. That means it will not allow to move in that direction. You are restricted to move in that direction. Other two dimensions are free, so that electron can easily move on those 2 dimensions. That is called 2-dimensional materials, or a quantum wells. So if you have a quantum well, the electron trapped in the quantum well, what happens? Electron is confined to move along x and y direction. So it cannot move z direction because it feels high potential. And similarly, you have 1-dimensional, so that means electron is confined to move along that direction. It is restricted to move other 2 dimensions. In 0 dimensions, the electron is confined, completely confined into the, so it cannot move any further directions. It can take only one energy levels. Okay, so this is our density of states of different dimensions. With these materials, you take the semiconductor materials with having good lattice matching, you can prepare different heterojunction junctions or homojunctions to having your semiconductor lasers. So now we have wide variety of semiconductor lasers, so that give you full spectral range from complete your visible and also UV to near IR. And now you can make multiple junctions. Okay, it's not limited to you make only 1 or 2 layers or 3 layers. You can make stack of different layers, or you can make multiple quantum wells to confine these lasers. Now in this paper, what they have done, they make a device like this. Okay, and then they are able to get a green laser. So now previously we are using a green laser from second harmonic generation of 106. So from the NDI lasers, we will take a second harmonic generation, we are able to get the green laser. Now with these semiconductor lasers, in this 2009 we are able to get a green laser. So now this laser can be utilized to pump what types of lasers. So this is called diode pumping. So now these lasers are called diode lasers. You can pump other lasers through your diode lasers. That is called diode pumping lasers. So this is a 2009 paper. If you want to go in detail how they make this structure and how you are able to get the around 514. This is the tunability of this material. So with the you inject the different currents, you can tune your lasing wavelengths. So that can range from around 515 to 514 to 516 nanometers. So that means if you see, it's a very short line width. Okay, so these are the good advantage of semiconductor lasers. We have a very narrow line widths and also very portable and easy to adapt to other lasers. Okay, so there are also this very easy to couple these lights into a fiber. So this can be used for different applications. And also to the next class we can discuss in the fiber lasers. So these semiconductor lasers are very useful to make a fiber lasers, because you need a pumping for a fiber lasers. If you pump using the diode lasers, so your fiber lasers will be required a pumping mechanism, so that this will be easily adapted. These semiconductor lasers will be easily attached to your fiber lasers. So then you have a good pumping, and your fibers will be doped to get those energy levels which are required for the lasing. Okay, so these are the wide range of semiconductor lasers are available. So depending on the applications, one can use different wide varieties of semiconductor lasers. Okay, so I will stop here.